Good morning, Martin.
You're welcome.
As Paddy last speaker, I wonder have I much to add, except to say this. I think coming up to Christmas we're going to see in areas like Ballyfermot where I live and other big working class areas a lot of money lenders knocking on a lot of doors of workers. Hitherto they'd be knocking on the doors of the very poor and those who were locked into long-term unemployment. But I know for a fact that they'll be knocking on the doors and getting a response from a lot of people who are allegedly workers because of the disgraceful use of the sort of if and when contracts, the bandit hour, the lack of bandit hours, and the precarious nature of work nowadays. Now, I want to question the whole business of spending 16 months, 14 hours and seeing 45 witnesses. And the Fianna Fáil deputy who really chaired the committee very well, I was on the committee, I'm gone off it now, but I was on that committee, is testimony to the fact that we put an awful lot of work into this bill and we're now being told that it's been pulled for a government bill. Well, I want to question the whole process of democracy here. We workers out there, people out there, elect us to do a job. And the evidence is there, we've done the job, and everybody acknowledges, and I think you acknowledged too, Minister, that we did a good job. That was good work. And now the rug is being pulled from under us. And it's not at all because you've got something better up your sleeve. It's not at all because you have the concern of these workers who will have to turn to money lenders because they're utterly broke and can't plan even Christmas for their families. It's because you've been lobbied. And you've been lobbied hard by ISME, by IBEC, by all of those witnesses who appeared before the committee and said this was intolerable, that it would cost them too much. And I just want to quickly look, because everybody else has looked at the lives of the workers, I want to look at the lives of the wealthy and those who make the profit. Eurostat figures show us that profitability since up to 2014, and I don't have the figures for the last 3 years, in the accommodation and food sector exceeded the 2007 pre-crash high by 40%. 40% profits higher than they were in 2007, which was before the crash. What might they be like now, 3 years later, God only knows. In the wholesale and retail sector, profits are 11% higher than they were in those years. 11% higher than they were in the pre-crash sector, in the pre-crash years. Now, what we find when we look at workers within this, that their wages have actually fallen. And they have fallen because their hours have fallen. Their income has fallen, their living standards have fallen, but the profits of the 1% that rule this world have gone through the roof. And it's not a peculiarly Irish thing, it's not a Father Ted thing, it's right across the modern developed countries where precarious if and when contracts are being used, not by just small firms, but actually by very, very large firms whose profits have gone through the roof. And unless we do have soon, very, very soon, legislation that will rein these people in, then I think we're just going to deny the ability of fairness and decency for workers right throughout this country. Now, there is a quote from one of the Dunstores workers that I want to use, and she says, "They use the allocation of hours as a mechanism to control us." And that's exactly what's going on here. There's a control mechanism being used over workers to be bullied, to be threatened, to live in fear in order to keep them in their place. As it happens, most of them are women. The largest cohort of them are women. And I think this society is getting a bit sick of the control of and the degradation of and the abuse of women, right from the sexism of the industries down to the hours that we work. And what I would like to see over the next while, if there's any pussyfooting or delay on this bill, that the unions out there organise strikes and organise demonstrations and begin to really threaten this government and the political forces within it. Because you're not listening to democracy, you're not listening to the elected people, you're not listening to the workers who elected those people or their trade unions, you're listening to the IBECs of this world. Francis Black told me the other day when we talked about the alcohol bill, IBEC have lobbied this Parliament 600 times on that bill. I'd love to know how often they've been in on this bill. It'd be interesting to find out, and I will check out the figures, how often they've lobbied the government on this bill, because that is what is going on and it has to end, and the only force that can end it is the force and the power of the people, organised by their trade unions, and that will be the solution unless you deliver the change through the House.
Thank you very much, Deputy Smith. Now we go to Minister Pat Breen.